Expo 2020 Dubai's second international World Majlis session, which took place at the World Expo Museum in Shanghai, China, centered on the topic of the future of cities, World Expos as experiments in megachange. Attended by 25 current and aspiring leaders, the conversation addressed the future of urban living, as well as the potential of World Expos to influence long-term development in their host cities and beyond. The World Majlis session was hosted by Najib Mohammed Al Ali, Executive Director of the Dubai Expo 2020 Bureau.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, excellencies. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Najib Mohammed Al Ali, the Executive Director of the Expo 2020 Bureau. And maybe I'll give a short welcome, but I'd like to first thank our Chinese counterparts and the Expo Museum for giving us this opportunity in a magnificent venue, which I think is very intriguing and will give us a lot of opportunity to, share the best that we can with this beautiful venue. So thank you for our hosts here in the Expo Museum. Today, before I hand over to my colleague, I'll probably like to shed upon a couple of points that relate so much to the discussion that we have today. One of them is the city of Shanghai and how that relates to Dubai, the UAE, and how we actually do our thinking. And the second concept is the concept of our Majlis, and where the Majlis came from, and what is the idea behind a Majlis in the context of the UAE. So I'll perhaps start with the second concept. I remember since I was a kid, my father used to take me to Majlises, not so different to this one. Maybe the difference is we usually sit on the floor. And the idea was, with the Majlis, always you go and you listen and you share. In the context of the leadership, the community can go to the Majlis, share with the leaders the problems they have, the things they have, the opportunities they might want to talk to with the leaders, in our case, with the sheikhs of the emirate or of the country. And it goes also for the rest of the community. We usually go to our elders. In my case, maybe when I was young, it wasn't the best thing I would have thought of. I'm little there, as a kid, and my father takes me to this. He forces me to go to these majlises. I would have rather played football or something outside, but after a while you get to know, because you start by learning to listen. And then you start seeing the benefit of this majlis in terms of the discussions that are actually happening on the ground. And by the time I grew up, myself, I actually went back to the majlises and we started talking about many issues that relate even to myself and learned from others. So the majlis was always the venue that we found the solutions to things that we wanted to have a solution to. The Majlis was the place that we got to hear the latest news of whatever is actually happening in our community. And fast forwarding to today, the world in the Arab world, in Dubai, in the UAE is of course not as it was before. It's, as if I speak of Dubai, it's a big city, it's an ambitious city. It thinks of the world as a platform, no longer just the small community that we had a small community in the city itself. But with the ambition we had, we thought we would never forget who we are. We would never forget the way in which we are actually working and doing business and having our relationship with the community. And we said we can take that to the global context, because for us, humbleness is such an important thing. Being able to look people into the eye is such an important thing. I will never forget, and I think many of my colleagues will remember, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed teaching his son, Sheikh Hamdan, going to one of the places in the rural areas in the UAE, to one of the individual and to say, you need to sit, to his son, you need to sit on the ground, and when you speak to the person, you have to speak to him in an eye to eye. That was the message. Put it in an equal context, and that's kind of the essence of the Majlis itself, very open dialogue, speaking about issues that are so important for us. So the second point is a bit of comparison with the city of Shanghai. Shanghai and Dubai, I see a lot of similarities in terms of the two cities becoming so global in terms of the activities that they are doing. Two cities that have an ambition to become global cities, influential cities, cities that host many people from all around the world, cities that bring companies together. So this is such a beautiful context, again, to link with the Majlis itself. So in terms of the Majlis and the idea of our expo, and this is kind of the topic we were relating to the topic we're going to talk about. With the World Majlis, we thought we will start having these discussions in the global context. We had a few sessions in the UAE, and then we had the first international session, or the World Majlis session in New York, and we are very privileged to actually have the second one here in Shanghai. And especially in this venue where you can see the history of so many expos since 1851. And if any one of you haven't seen the museum downstairs, I urge you to see it and learn more about what each expo actually gave to their cities and to their countries. And we're hoping in the UAE and Dubai not only contribute to Dubai and the region, but to have a positive influence globally. And that could be with practices, could be with knowledge, again with having that humbleness, that respect into each other, different cultures, different societies.
Marjan Faraidouni, Expo 2020 Dubai's Deputy Chief Visitor Experience Officer, who opened the Majlis by inviting Vicente González Losertales, Secretary General of the Bureau International des Expositions, to share his key learnings about the effects World Expos have had on their host cities over the years.
So my name is Marjan Faraidouni, and I'm going to be facilitating this conversation as we'd like to think of it. Just a bit of what I do at the Expo. I oversee the Legacy Development Program at the Expo. So I think a lot about the future and what happens after the Expo. I'd like to welcome you again. It's really nice to have a wonderful mixture of individuals who have been part of, many of you have been part of hosting and planning for World Expos, of which we're going to be touching on today. And I'd also like to welcome the students that we have as part of this conversation to be listening and also contributing to the discussions that we will have. I'd like to maybe pose the question to His Excellency Losertales around what are some of the key learnings that from the experience that you've had that the World Expo has had on the cities that have hosted it over the years?
Okay, thank you for the question. First of all, I would like to congratulate you for the choice of Shanghai for this World Majlis, and also the choice of this museum, which has become a center and a repository of the memory of expos, but furthermore is also, a training, a center in which the expertise of expo can be widespread and disseminated all over the world. Then, answering to your questions, I will refer only the expos of the last 25 years. No, I am not going to speak of the historical expos of the 19th century or the expos previous to the Second World War. I will say, the expos are a part of the city creation. Expos are a catalyst to develop a city. Expos have to be in the vision and also in the master plan, the strategic master plan of the development of a city. If an expo is not considered like this, as a part of the city which is going to create a dynamic process in which the city is going to improve, the citizens are going to get better living conditions, the expo is condemned to wait for years until they can find the raison d'être. We have so many examples of fantastic cities which are not being able to digest the expo in many years. If we go back to 1967 in Montreal, the islands created on the St. Lawrence River had been, for years an example of how a city cannot integrate, or the difficulties of a city to integrate an expo. If we speak about success stories and quick integration, the action of the city authorities, but also of the government and the cooperation of the citizens is essential. I am going to give you a few examples I have personally witnessed. The example, for example, Daejeon in Korea. Daejeon has an expo reduced Expo over, a small site, but, was a catalyst for the development of a city, which was a very traditional provincial city, accompanied by an ambitious program of infrastructure, that was the high-speed train, and the vision of a government who later on, after the Expo created the administrative capital of the country in the city in a few years became a center for research, for technological and scientific research, and a hub of the administration in Korea. That was, a vision which tried, just to expand the city and to develop the central region before going down to the south, that was Yosu, and then in a future going to the other direction in the case, of the future reunification. This is the first, the city doubled, the economy of the city became, very, very dynamic, and today is the third or fourth city in Korea, and this is very, very good case. The second success story for me is Lisbon. For me, Lisbon was a big change in the orientation of a city, traditionally orientated to the west, and then suddenly, the vision of the government, the vision of the municipality of Lisbon, they just changed the sense of the development of the city to the east, with ambitious infrastructure program, always, the bridge, the station of Calatrava, the Oriente station, and they created a fantastic place for the new generations, young couples, and created a lot of activity in an area which was degraded and derelicted before the Expo. Now, I cannot avoid to speak about Shanghai. Shanghai has become, the epitome, the best example of the success of an Expo in the city. With a strong intervention of the municipal government and with a very good vision of the central government, and has become, an example of what an Expo can do for a city.
Following on from Mr. Losertalis' remarks on Expo 2010 Shanghai, China being a prime example of the success a World Expo can bring to its host city, Dr. Cheng Jian, director of the Shanghai World City Day Affairs Coordination Center, cited World Cities Day as one of the many legacies of the event.
I'm now in charge of the Center of World Cities Day in Shanghai. First of all, let me introduce a little bit about this center, because World Cities Day is the first international day themed with city, and adopted by the United Nations in 2013. We should say that it's like a baby of Shanghai World Expo, because in the final day of World Expo in 2010, October 31st, we together BIE and Shanghai Municipality and the United Nations have declared the Shanghai Declaration, and in this declaration there was a proposal that three parties will work together to nominate the October 31st as the World Cities Day in purpose to facilitate the sustainable development of worldwide. And since then, we worked together with the BIE, and after 3 years bidding to the United Nations, finally we in the end of 2013, the United Nations have adopted this proposal. And I must say that because Shanghai Declaration has been adopted after the bidding of Shanghai World Expo, that's to say that even since the very beginning, the organizers have thought about the legacy of the World Expo. It's not only the tangible like this beautiful venue we sit together today, but also the foreseeable, intangible legacy. That's the Shanghai Declaration, and that's the International Day proposed together by all the parties. And I think maybe it's also a very good example for the Expo itself, and for our counterparts in Dubai, we can also design the same structure, not only the tangible, but also the intangible legacy.
Jun Kuruda, Deputy Director General of World Expo 2025 at Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, built on the theme of city transformation and sustainable development by discussing Osaka's ambitions for its second World Expo, an event with the potential to revitalize the city, the prefecture, and the surrounding area.
When it comes to city transformation, obviously Osaka has hosted Expo in 1970, so this is the second time. So we have bigger sort of ambition. Obviously, the Osaka prefecture and city, they would like to revitalize this area, the second biggest city in Japan and the whole area. But in addition to that, we would like to use this Expo as a sort of a catalyst of transformation, not just cities, but also the socio-economic system, so that we can address many common challenges which we are facing, especially when we are going to aging societies, and many of us are enjoying very longer life, but it's very important for us to live a healthy and fulfilling life until the end. So there are many conditions for that. Environment is that one, social security is another one, but maybe we have to think about the whole system. So big city like Osaka maybe can be a good test bed, so that we can try some of the new systems, maybe during the Expo or throughout the process of the Expo. And then we can apply that result to other parts of Japan or even to other parts of the world.
Elaborating on the topic of city transformation, Zhang Liang, director of the China Pavilion at Expo 2015 Milan, highlighted the positive effect that Expo 2010 Shanghai, China has had on catalyzing positive change, both in terms of urban planning and infrastructure.
Because we have organized the Shanghai Expo, and now we are working on the next horticulture expo in Beijing. So really, I think we have a great evidence to say that make such a big mega events for the whole city can bring dramatic and big exchange for city planning and infrastructure. For example, yesterday, I remember the chief designer of the Shanghai Expo site mentioned about the metro lines in Shanghai. Because of the Shanghai Expo, we dramatically increased the speed of building metro lines in Shanghai city. So by the end of 2010, the metro lines in Shanghai city is already something like, maybe Mr. Hong Hao knows better about this figure, but already is the target of 2035. So we increased our speed by almost 25 years to reach the target of 2035.
Mr. Liang also touched on the potential of the upcoming World Horticultural Exposition, Expo 2019 Beijing, to make a positive contribution to China's capital city.
Now when you arrive in China, in Shanghai, you can see they're very convenient to go anywhere. But this kind of infrastructure is a great result of the Shanghai Expo, because with this mega event, we make a great investment for this. And also for the Beijing Horticulture Expo. Next year, when you come to Beijing, you will see a new international airport in Beijing, which will become one of the biggest in the whole world. Especially if you take Air France from Paris to Beijing, you will land in the new international airport. And we are also building a new highway connecting the city center of Beijing to the expo site of Beijing Horticulture Expo. So I think this is maybe an advantage for Chinese government that we can always fully utilize a mega event to dramatically increase our infrastructure investment. So, and this is the best result is for the people, for the population and the public in these cities. And you can also see that after these kind of mega events, like the Beijing Olympics and the Shanghai Expo, these two cities has now become global cities. I think this is not only for infrastructure, but people's mindset. This is really a good result for us.
Rolando Martins, Expo 2020 Dubai's Chief Visitor Experience Officer, echoed earlier remarks about how World Expos must always maintain the interests of citizens at the very center of their planning and delivery to maximize their chances of success.
I will go back to the question and also to what Mr. Lochatal has mentioned about putting citizens in the center of whatever we do, because we cannot do expos against the citizens. And on that, I think it's relevant also to pick in some elements that I've already mentioned, but I'd like to stress. Vision. I think if we go for an expo, you need to have a long-term vision for the city or the urban context where you run it. The expo is just an instrument in that. It's not an end in itself. It's a mean to transform the mindset of an urban, relevant part of your country. So it also becomes easily a national project, part of the vision of the country, or the region where it takes place, or the mega city where it happens. So vision.
Mr. Martins emphasized the importance of having a long-term vision for the host city and its surrounding area, as well as the need to apply this vision as part of an integrated master plan. He also pointed out that selecting a theme that is relevant to the host city or its nation's wider population can contribute to an impactful legacy.
The other thing that comes after the vision is the need to apply that vision into a spatial relevant area. So you go for the master plan. Please never go into a master plan in isolation with the broader master plan of the city where you are working for. Because you also need to connect and solve all those infrastructure matters that will relate that microsystem, which is the master plan for the expo site, with the bigger picture, which is the city itself. Never in isolation. But I still think there's another relevant element, which is not the infrastructures that we will connect that bigger picture with the expo site, which is the theme that you select for Go for an Expo. It should be relevant also for the city or for the population, and it goes back to the citizen element. So the selection of the theme makes it much more meaningful for the expo, and that's what we call content, but also for the legacy. You mentioned in Shanghai the declaration, the United Nations Declaration of the City, that was related with the theme of the expo, Better City, Better Life, and was also relevant for a mega city like Shanghai is. In Lisbon, we used oceans, and we developed the theme of the oceans as central for the expo. And then we also end up having a United Nations Year of the Oceans in 1998, and we also end up with European agencies for maritime industries moving into Lisbon. So it continues in intangible ways if you have a theme that relates to the vision and applies in a consistent master plan that connects with the rest of the city, the site that you've selected for the expo.
Ambassador Eduardo Lopez Busquets, former Deputy Commissioner General of Expo 2008 in Zaragoza, agreed with earlier comments, adding that certain factors and requirements need to be taken into account when a city considers bidding to host an expo.
Well, I am the former deputy commissioner of the Expo in Zaragoza 2008, and in fact, my comment is building on previous comments. But I do think this is one of the key questions for an expo. And the first thing I have to say is that normally, when a town bids for an expo, is in itself already a dynamic and positive force, if I can say that. I mean, it's a mature in the sense of, let's say, interesting, important, social, economic, political town, normally. This is extremely important, because an expo, at the end of the day, if it's successful, and normally successful, what it makes is for the town to become a level higher, and sometimes even 2 levels higher. But you have to take into account from the very beginning that you have to take a stock of a dynamic town trying, I repeat, with vision and with leadership to become placed in a higher level. Normally, an expo has 3, why one town, one country back in the town decides to back the bid for an expo. Basically, there are 3 things that can be interconnected. One is precisely to restructure the town, the city, to transform it, to make it a hub, or to become, let's say, or to provide new infrastructure. The second, sometimes, is building nation, building town, building region, building place, not only branding place, branding nation, but also building sometimes precisely a citizenship proud of the heritage and also proud of the legacy that is being produced by the same city. And the third question, most of the time, is positioning the city, the region, the country in the world. The 3 are interconnected. Sometimes you have the first as principal and the other as auxiliary. Other time is completely different. It depends very much. But I repeat the first idea. You have to take into account that in itself, the town bidding and being successful to become an expo venue is in itself already a power, let's say, to go beyond. In the specific experience of Zaragoza, what is important is that precisely it became a hub of communications between the other, in Spain there are 6 important towns, and precisely, 6 important, let's say 12 as important but smaller. But Zaragoza is right in the middle of 4 out of the 5 different towns of Spain. So it's 300 kilometers from Barcelona, from Madrid, from Valencia, and from Bilbao. So with the push of the Expo, it became really a hub where the fast speed train really played a role. The first fast speed train was also an outcome of the first Universal Exposition to take place in Spain in Seville '92. Because of Seville '92, finally, we got a high-speed train linking, in this case, Madrid and Seville. And I'm talking about infrastructures, but finishing by saying that the important thing is the mindset, not only infrastructures. When you have a powerful network of fast-speed train, and I repeat, in the case of Spain, 2 expos played a role, major role in developing this, then your mindset changes. You are in a completely different country. In my own experience, in a previous position, I was the director of the Arab House in Madrid and Córdoba, and one single day, I had breakfast in Madrid, I went to Córdoba, inaugurated a meeting there, I came back to Madrid, and then I went to Zaragoza to have a luncheon in Zaragoza, and by the evening, I was in my home in Madrid. This is not only, let's say, comfortable. This changed completely the life of an average citizen in every country.
In the nation branding era of World Expos, marketing and public diplomacy efforts must be in balance with legacy planning, according to Hernan Santiago Lombardi, Secretary of Government of the Federal System of Public Media and Contents of Argentina.
First of all, we can perceive a tension between branding, city branding, country branding, okay, all that market package, all that marketing stuff, that is very important. It's very important for our countries how to sell us. But at the same time, in the other hand, we have legacy. Part of our challenge, we believe that the challenge of the whole Expos are how to put at the same time, in the same perception, legacy and branding. If you think only in branding, probably we are losing the most important thing of the Expo, that's education, transformation, innovation. But obviously, and we have to be very frank here, speaking very sincerely, it's a challenge of country branding, because we want, every country want more investments, more tourism, more relationship with all the world.
Mr. Lombardi pointed out that while common goals in terms of city and country branding can facilitate relationship building between countries, they can also present certain challenges.
We know, and we have spoken before this meeting, that we are all passengers of the same ship, so relationship is an important tool, an important brand, an important aim of Expos. And so this is a stress there. And part of our challenge as organizers is how to solve this stress. In our position as organizers of Buenos Aires Expo 23, is another stress that we have to solve. That is obviously the urban perspective. Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires is a megalopolis in the south of America. We have rich zones, at the same time poor zones, and the site of the Expo is just in the middle, so we will use for develop our defavorized neighborhoods, at the same time for all the citizens the same opportunities.
Speaking within the context of Latin America's first specialized expo, Expo 2023 Buenos Aires, Mr. Lombardi mentioned the need to align urban and regional visions while ensuring that an expo adds value to a city's urban planning in the best interests of its citizens, especially youth.
But at the same time, this is the city perspective. At the same time, we need a regional perspective. For us, our challenge is the first expo in South America. So we have to understand the dimension of Latin America, Brazil, Peru, Chile, Colombia, Uruguay. So at the same time, we have to compatibilize the two visions, the urban vision, but the regional vision. So, and this is another stress. How to utilize the momentum of the Expo, the energy of the Expo. When we think that the best of us, of what we have done, is beginning from the end, beginning from the legacy. We begin from the legacy, and then step by step, trying to understand how the 90 days, because we are an expo of World Expo of 90 days in 2023, how to understand how each step will improve our legacy. This is our vision, but we have to understand, and I consider it's very important, Mr. Los Artales' words in the beginning, that we have to be in the urban planning. We have to be part of the vision of the country and of the city, because if not, you are against the citizens and not with the citizens. And this is part, for us, is in the real origin of our thinking, be part of the movement of the citizens. So, and we insert this, and it's the last that I want to say, in public diplomacy. public diplomacy is the area in we are thinking. It's not casual. I will try to put together three things. Japan, China, and Argentina have in the last years three big events. The Olympic Games, Tokyo, Osaka, and Osaka again, the Expo and the G20. Argentina has the G20 last week. The same team are the organizers of the G20, the Expo, and the Youth Olympic Games. China had the Olympic Games, the G20, and at the same time, they have the Expo. Their origins are absolutely different. You cannot put together Olympic Games, the G20, and Expos. But they have some alignment that are how to show your country in a different way using public diplomacy. And the last I want to say that we are utilizing all of us, public resources, public taxes. So we need to give them the best result that we can do, because we are not utilizing our money. We are utilizing the money of the people. So we have to be, and to show examples of how to utilize the money in the best way to improve the life of people, particularly to the youth, because the youth have to be our objective.
Professor Juan Busquets, Chair Professor of Urban Planning and Design at the Harvard Graduate School of Design, continued the theme of urban planning, highlighting the importance of interactions in the public space and observing how existing urban planning activities can be influenced by the capacity to deliver mega events like World Expos or Olympic Games.
I'm very interested in the question, like just I said, about the large-scale projects, because I feel that the way that we can design the cities today is very much relies on the capacity of designing these, what we usually call mega events, like the Expos, but also the Olympics and other many things. I think that is really accepted today as one main driver for the design of the future of the city. I think that's very important. I want to stress 2 points that I think are very important in that. One is the location of the place for the large event. That's very important, as you said. Depending strategically, that it makes a choice. It's different when you make the choice of being outside the city for any reasons, because then you have to justify the vision, why this is outside the city or why is in the center. Always is easier outside the city than in the center, because always we know that. But anyway, we have to be aware of that. The second is the dimension of it. How big is the site in relation with the city itself? And I think that in the research that we are doing, we can see that there is no any equation between the size of the city and the size of the expo, or the mega event. I mean, they are all options. I would say that today what we can learn from the cities is that all the projects are different. It's amazing. We are studying, 60, 70 cities, and in the end you discover that you can learn many things, but you have to always understand the logics of the different projects. I think that's very important. Then I like to make my last point about probably what you are suggesting with the Majlis, perhaps. In some way, I think the expos, and I think many points been said about the gigantic capacity of the large projects to change the cities. That's very clear. But probably for us, it's very important to discuss what is the innovative proposal from each mega event, what we can learn from the different places. That has a lot to do, perhaps, with this idea of the public space. I feel that probably when you were talking about the Majlis and the way that different cultures are using the public space. And I think this is what we have to imagine, that you can learn and you can use the mega events to produce new things. For instance, yesterday I was showing this image that I love from Paris, late 19th century, when they produced this street with 2 levels. It was called the Nation Street. And the reason it was one level was more or less at the level of the water in front of the river, and the other was a sort of belvedere over the river. That was completely an invention that later been repeated. We can see the Bund in Shanghai, we can see the Walker's Drive in Chicago. You put the display of this element, and you can see now in other places and not in Paris, because in Paris it's demolished. And I think it's nice that this invention has been realized in other places and we can still use. I mean, this I think is very important, and perhaps this is something that perhaps Dubai can also put on the table, this idea how the public space in certain climate conditions can be modulated, can be reinvented, how that can be used. And I think that could be something that could be very interesting if you can explore different ways how that can be managed in some way. Because we know that there is the climate change, there are many things that are going to happen in the way. This idea is something very important. And I think this type of innovative proposal could be also at the level of the management. Many expos provide also new inventions about how you can organize the city, how the public space. For instance, you have to keep in mind that in the last 100 years, most of the expos have been struggling with the idea how we can introduce new mobility systems, inventing flying overs, inventing monorails. All these type of things are in the expos. Because in a way, it's like a dream. Everybody likes to fly, in a way. No? Everybody dreams one day that is flying, in a way, no? Like Mary Poppins, in a way. Yeah? But I think this is something important. I think the expo are tools, and I think we have to take advantage of that tools to innovate and to research, to do experiments sometimes. I like, for instance, the example of this expo in Switzerland that was built to be dismantled. And then when you do something to be dismantled, you feel all the risks are safe, because then you can test and then you dismantle. Anyway, I think this is, again, the expo provides this opportunity, and that is what I like to stress.
On the back of Professor Busquets' remarks on a city's capacity to host mega events, Catherine Wang, president of the Center for China-Shanghai International Arts Festival, raised the question of the value of hosting mega events in the information age.
And I just would like to say 2 points. First of all, I'm always thinking of one question. Now we're just in the information age and digital age. So as the 2018 this year, and also by 2020 we'll have the expo in Dubai. And why do we have, or why do we need a physical mega event in a city? And I think that it's very important. It's very necessary because it is for the people. It is just for every one of us. Just as the Excellency said that people need to communicate face to face and eye to eye. It is so important that people need to be touched and needs to be experienced by different culture from different corners of the world. So I still remember that in 2010 in Shanghai, within 6 months' time, we altogether arranged 20,000 different cultural events in the World Expo site. So people just went there and visiting different pavilions, and also at the same time, they just experienced with their own eyes and ears and nose the different cultures in a restricted, an area. So I think this is very important because it's just narrow the gap between the people from different corners of the world. And also, I feel quite lucky that after the work for the World Expo, I started to work for the China-Shanghai International Arts Festival. And just the 20th Arts Festival was just over last month. And within 1 month time, we altogether arranged 350 different cultural programs for the people. And within 35 days, we attracted around 5 million people on site and also online as well. So I think that we invited around 10,000 artists from around 63 different countries. Within 1 month time, people just get together and celebrate together and just get to know each other. Because I think the culture is just like a treasure box. It's just unlimited. So it's very important for the people to read different culture and different programs from different world.
Ms. Wang also reiterated earlier comments about the importance of a city's vision and how arts and culture can contribute not only to that vision, but also to the identity of the city for the betterment of its citizens and visitors alike.
I would like to reiterate is, I totally agree with how important it is, the vision is, to a city. And also I think it is very important every city should have its own identity, and also every city has its own soul, which is also very important to the citizen in town, and also the foreigners to town, and also a lot of students and the people who work in this town. So I think that just 1 month ago, we did a very interesting event. We just gathered together all the cultural resources and all the programs which have been presented in 2010 by videos. There is a kind of digital database, and we just learned a little bit more. And also we read and also we viewed some of the programs. And we think, what can these programs, the information inlines there, and what can we get and what can we learn from that? We think the city of Shanghai is very open and very inclusive. And also, I think that in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, also very distinctive in their own characters. So I think that for the World Expo, if I buy tickets to go there, what I would like to see is, for sure, the different pavilions and what is the high tech and the new development of every single element from different country and different city. And also, more importantly, we just would like to get to know more about the economic development, the science development, and also the culture developments and arts.
Picking up on Ambassador Busquets' comments about the link between Expo 2008 in Zaragoza and Spain's high-speed railways, Dr. Xu Xiaozhen of Siemens revealed that his company often cites the line between Madrid and Barcelona when discussing the use of artificial intelligence and high-speed rail.
I want to start picking up from His Excellency Busquets. He was talking about the high-speed rails in Spain. As far as I know, Spain has more high-speed rails than any other country in Europe. And when Siemens talk about our artificial intelligence use cases in high-speed rails, we always use the Renfe example in Spain about this high-speed rail that goes between Madrid and Barcelona. I didn't know until today that Expo had a lot to do with all these high-speed rails in Spain. Also, as a resident close to Shanghai, I personally experienced Expo 2010. And 10 years ago, this area, there was pretty much nothing here. And now when you drive around, you have easy transportation, good roads, nice hotels, expensive residential apartment buildings. And behind it, it's a lot of infrastructure, stable power supplies, subway stations, gas turbine generators. It's really nice to see that the Expo has brought, after the Expo, it has brought the people here a really nice lifestyle. I mean, we talk about all these infrastructure. What is infrastructure? They are really advanced technology. The fact that after the Expo, we can turn this kind of advanced technology into the normal living for for citizens, I think that's quite an achievement, especially regarding the legacy development.
Dr. Xiaozhen also expressed his excitement and optimism for Expo 2020 Dubai as a host city with the potential to truly integrate all infrastructure and development for its Expo, especially in the digital domain.
So I'm also very excited to see what's happening in Dubai. Because from a technologist point of view, Dubai is my first opportunity to witness a city that is truly going connected. I mean, today we talk about infrastructure, but these infrastructure are very much isolated from each other. I think Dubai is, as an innovation in the next Expo, has the opportunity to have these infrastructures truly connected. You have renewable powers in distributed energy system. You have buildings that are connected. And more, as we digitalize a city, I think that paves the way for the legacy development of a city from a really nice greenfield planned city into a evolved city that's based on this digital platform. And so I'm really looking forward to the legacy development of the Expo and see how these advanced technology can disappear into people's lives and let people take it for granted. To me, that would be a fantastic indicator of success for the Expo.
Harold Peters, president of UPS China, spoke about UPS's partnership with Expo 2020 Dubai and other mega events, noting how these undertakings present different challenges and opportunities than one-day online events, such as 11/11, Black Friday, and Cyber Monday.
As we are the official logistics partner of the Expo, you can say that, certainly for the Chinese with their 11/11, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, these mega events for logistic companies should be relatively easy. They're not. And I think there's two reasons for that. I think you also indicated it's a 6-month event. It's not a one-time, one-day thing you can prepare for. The other thing also explained is this is the showcase for a lot of countries. So as a logistics partner, it's not something you can execute on yourself.
Addressing the youth in attendance at the Majlis, Mr. Peters stated that employment opportunities at UPS are being made available in the lead-up to Expo 2020 and that these positions are providing valuable job and training experiences across the company's global corporate structure.
You need to work with a credible amount of companies, countries, and stakeholders. And then speaking to the students in the room, we expect to employ over 1,000 people for the 2020 Expo only. And as an organization, this is an excellent opportunity to train young people in dealing with international organizations on multiple levels across a global culture and structure, which I don't think is an opportunity you can give to young people very often. We have been participating in the Beijing Olympics as a logistics partner as well as in London. And we gain a lot of knowledge as an organization. But still, today we have the torch of the 2008 Olympics in our office. And you feel still today that sense of pride as the local team having participating in such an event. So we're proud as an organization to be contributing to the Expo, but also we are extremely looking forward to the opportunity we can give to people. Speaking to technology, as a company, it's an excellent way to showcase some of your capabilities and some of your innovations.
Mr. Peters also referred to Expo 2020 Dubai as a valuable opportunity to explore how a logistics company can integrate into a city through the prisms of technology and sustainability.
Also, as a logistics company, you need to integrate into a city. And today you can only integrate into a city by recognizing that sustainability, for example, will play an important role. So for us, the Expo 2020 is also a possibility to showcase what you can do with minimizing your carbon footprint by using latest technology, which is not only we can do as a company. And I do like these kind of sessions because it combines people. Recognizing that a city of the future will only be a great city to live in when you use the expertise of all the stakeholders, parties with latest technology, working with companies like Siemens, ensuring that what they do, for example, in traffic control, and I've been to South Germany recently and speaking to some of your colleagues, combining that with what we do as a transportation company. By only working together, I think we can safeguard a good future for all.
Michel Ogrizek, former director of communications at the World Economic Forum, raised an interesting point about how traditionally nomadic cultures, now modern states with developed cities, are shaping and disrupting the future of communities through mega events such as World Expos.
We're discussing cities, buildings, infrastructures. But to be honest with you, when I visited Astana, for example, I looked more to the visitors, to the people, looking at all these pavilions. And a number of questions rise in my mind. The first is, strangely, Astana, Dubai, huge cities, modern cities, raised in profound nomadic culture. So this urbanization is concentrating, disruptive for a nomadic culture, which is amazing to see how these cities are disrupting or modifying the future of the societies. And that's the first thing I want to share with you. The second is I saw few very modest middle-class people in Astana visiting and so on, coming from the deep country.
Mr. Ogryzek also touched on the challenges that face such areas and how the restructuring, or rather enlarging, of these cities comes with its own unique challenges and opportunities.
And my feeling was, in these big cities, mega cities, where the poorest, where the lower middle class will live. Historically, they used to live in a special district. Then they were moving to suburban areas. And now, where we will put all these people serving the others in this biggest city? Where? In the basements? In some places? Special? So how we will manage humanly all these people who are not necessarily enjoying nice views on the rivers and so on? I think it will be a real challenge now to find where within these cities, these people. And around the cities, we are talking cities, but what about this around the cities? Empty space are growing. And with less services, with less connection, with less education, with less health, you know, what we will do with all what is going on around these empty nowheres. Anthropologists used to call them the nowheres. What we'll do around. So I think we should have a more holistic view when we are building cities and thinking about restructuring or transforming the cities or enlarging the cities or concentrating the cities. My feeling is we are building cities, we are becoming, because they are growing, fragile, increasingly fragile. Concentration economically create a fragile situation. For example, probably today 750 cities in the world are supporting probably 60% of the GDP worldwide. And concentration means also epidemic issues, natural catalysts, natural disasters, and so on. We saw it in big cities in the US nowadays. So I think this fragility also is increasing by developing these huge cities. So that's these parameters, these factors, my feeling, should be taken into account when we restructure part of the cities or enlarging the cities.
Building on Mr. Ogryzek's comments about the challenges that accompany the growth of megacities, Yu-Ting He, a master's student in playwriting at the Shanghai Theatre Academy, raised a question about striking a balance between traditional living and the conveniences offered by modern architecture.
For building these magnificent and building more cities, building these exhibition halls, many old alleys were pulled down and the residents were moved to other new apartments. How to balance the old style architecture or living style with the modern society, with the living style of, and how to enjoy the convenience of modern life?
Rolando Martins took the opportunity to answer Ms. Rain's question.
Of course, the issue of the balance between what we bring new versus what we need to compromise of the past exists. But it was also mentioned around this table, the matter of identity, that if we respect the identity of a city or a region, whatever are the moves that we need to do, we'll respect that. So, and this is probably the best way to address the compromise that we need to do between introducing changes, because large-scale events, as also was said, contribute to the cities overall to evolve, with the necessary necessary changes that we need to tackle with some of the limited old structures that we need to revitalize and or relocate. But if we respect the identity, I think we can respect everything and at the end of the day come up with a better solution for the global, again, the citizens.
Najib Muhammad Al Ali added that respect extends not only to the identity of a city and its citizens, but also to the environment as a whole.
Maybe I'll add something to what Rolando just said. I know it's not the same thing, but in the context of the Expo 2020, we are doing the Expo in a new area. But at the end of the day, it's all about respect. And respect does not only go towards people, it also goes to the environment. In our case, it's a new area, it's fairly empty, there was nothing there. But when we started the master plan, we realized there was a tree. It's a ghaf tree, a traditional tree in the UAE. And instead of saying, it was very easy to say, just cut the tree and it's going to make the construction so much easier. Instead, we said, no, let's protect it. Let's work around it. Let's see how we can actually make a story of it. Let's see whether we can teach the next generation something about it. So expos in general, we believe, should and will contribute to societies in a very positive way, but we should never forget to, the concept of respecting. You can't forget the past. You have to focus always, as we said earlier, into the people and the human and the next generation.
We hope you enjoyed this Expo 2020 Dubai World Majlis podcast from the vibrant Chinese city of Shanghai. We look forward to bringing you more exciting and impactful conversations that matter following our next World Majlis. Thank you.